All right, I see two of you.
Okay. I'm gonna. I guess I'm gonna have to. Let me see how this work. Share. The one that says Quinn Braboy. Share my
Return to class.
I got to share my screen so they
Class. Please admit them to class.
see the presentation. I've never like shared screens. I've always just been a participant.
Yeah, I did. You do have screen shareability.
Okay, let me see. Make that work. I think I got it.
Yep, I see it.
All right. I'll make it big so it can be like the presentation.
Yes, we got it.
Okay. Great.
All right. Well, yeah, like I said, this is my STEM class, and we are also being joined by Tammy Sharp at Shirley Simmons Middle School, Greg Morgan at Madison Middle School, Jatoria Kirksey and Angela Reed both at Old Town Middle School, and Vicky Parch at Germantown High School. So we have quite a few of our STEM students going to see this, and we are still early in our STEM curriculum, but I think it's important for them to see a local engineering professional and kind of get an idea of what you guys do, and also in our case, to see a successful Black female engineer, because I think a lot of people get that unfair stereotype that it's a job for old white men, but I think you are proof that it is not the case.
Right. Yeah. Okay, I'm excited. I mean, I guess just let me know when to start or.
Hey, go ahead. And we have some questions we'll have for you, but go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay. I'll just introduce myself. I'm Quinn Braboy, and I'm a professional engineer here in the city of Jackson. And I'll just start with my presentation. So, like I said, this is for STEM. I'm a civil engineer. And pretty much my first question, or engaging the audience, is what is a civil engineer? So I have a couple bullet points. And I have, the first one is like a kind and loving public servant. Most of the time when people hear civil engineer, they probably don't think that, but I feel like that is part of what I do. And then the second one is an awesome nerd who loves math and science. So I know sometimes people might be like, oh, nerd is kind of like a negative name, but it's not. In this field, it's a positive. And definitely with civil engineering, you're gonna love, or if you don't love, you're gonna have to really like math and science. And then the third point I have is a quirky problem solver. So pretty much as an engineer, any type of engineer, you're always gonna be solving problems, and it's just helping people. But a more formal definition of what a civil engineer is a person who designs, build, and supervise, construct, and maintain infrastructure projects and systems in the public and private sector. And just to give you a breakdown, infrastructure is pretty much like buildings, roads, our transportation system. A lot of things can be considered infrastructure. So that's pretty much an overview of what I consider a civil engineer to be. So a little bit more background about me. So why did I choose this major or career? Like I say, I've always been like a curious child person. I have always just like looked at things and been like, how does that work? Or how is that built? So that natural curiosity helped me, pretty much get into this field. Also as a child, I am a girl. I like Barbies, but I really like Legos and Connects. So a lot of y'all might not know what Connects are, but you can Google it. And Connects are kind of like these pieces that you can build things. Like I used to build like planes,
Fun stuff.
yeah, like I probably bought so much Connects. I should have like bought stock into it, got my parents to buy stock into it. And then I always like solving puzzles, whether it was just like jigsaw puzzles or just different type of puzzles that was hands-on. So, and also another reason, I had an awesome mentor. So I have an uncle who he married my aunt when I was about 5 or 6, and he's a civil engineer. So I was just always interested in what he did every day. And it was good to have that close mentor to see, like, okay, I'm interested in math and science. This is what you do every day. You know, it's kind of like his little shadow. Like, so that really helped me really go more into the field. I knew I wanted to do engineering, but just like, okay, what type? So he was an awesome engineer. He's still, he's a professional civil engineer. He's still practicing to this day. Okay, so that was just kind of a little bit about me. So in high school, I pretty much, like I said, I liked math and science. So I was the kid who took like all of the maths. I took physics and chemistry at the same time. You don't have to, but like I said, that was an interest in mine. Like you could have gave me a science class before you gave me English, but I understood that I did have to take English to graduate. So got through got through high school. And then when I went to college, I really was trying to figure out, I knew I wanted to do engineering, but I was trying to decide between computer engineering or civil. I thought, because I was like, this was early 2000s. So I really was into like computers. I was like, oh, I think that's the future. And I was like, but it wasn't a passion of mine. I tell everybody to at least try. I took an intro to a computer engineering class my freshman year, and I struggled. My teacher was very, hands-on with me. He helped, but that's when I realized this is not my passion. I am more so into civil. So that's when I went full force into civil. So as you can see, I did graduate from Murrah High School, 1400 Murrah Drive, a proud JPS graduate. So then I went on to college. In college, it was a little challenging, just to be honest. It was a great experience, but that's when I realized that I was definitely the minority. I was maybe one of 5 females in the class. When it came to African American, Black, I was maybe one of 2. And then when it was time for me to graduate in civil engineering from Mississippi State, I was the only Black female graduate in my class at the time.
That's incredible.
My college experience was really good. Like I say, as you can see, we took a lot of math. Our math, we took so much math that you end up getting a minor in math with your bachelor's degree.
Wow.
And another thing with college, it was a lot of theory. It was some hands-on training. Like one of my favorite classes was surveying, which is a part of civil engineering. And that's a class, you're outside, it's a lot of hands-on. So I really enjoyed that instead of just kind of sitting in class every day, taking notes and taking tests. So after I graduated from Mississippi State in 2007, I started my career. I moved back to Jackson and started working for a private consulting firm. I enjoyed it. I stayed at that particular firm, it was about 8 or 9 years. Mainly, I worked for the private sector. So we had quite a few contracts with like cities and municipalities, and we did a lot of like basically projects for them. So from beginning to end, we would do design, we would do meetings, we would meet with the public to let them know like this is a project that this city or municipality is finna do. So we had to do interface with public, and then also interface with the with either the council or the board or the alderman to let them know also that, okay, this is what we're presenting, this is what you're spending your money on because you signed a contract with them. So the private consulting firms, they're for profit, but you do a lot of different projects from roadway to buildings. You work with schools, you can work with school systems, like we did things with JPS. You can work with JTran, like public transportation, all type of projects. So it just kind of depends on who you work for and what kind of field. And then that's when you kind of get more specialized. Ooh, sorry. That's something in my mouth. Ooh. Sorry. I had something or something. But So I did that for about 11 years. And then while I was also working, I decided to pursue my master's in civil engineering. And I got that from the Great Institute, Jackson State University. And I enjoyed that experience as well. Again, it was a lot of theory, but it was more hands-on. And also I got to do like research projects when I was in graduate school. So that early part of my career just really helped hone in like what I really wanted to do, what my interests were. Because you do have different disciplines in civil engineering. You have structural, which is of course dealing mainly with buildings. You have transportation, which deals mainly with roads and bridges. You have construction, which is more so on the construction side. So after the project has been designed, you're doing more so than construction, inspection, and engineering. And then you also have like water resources and environmental, which is pretty much kind of what I'm in today. So I'll get into that. So present day, I work for the city of Jackson, and I am the stormwater engineer. So stormwater is pretty much self-explanatory. It has to deal with when it rains, like we had rain yesterday for quite a bit. I deal with that. I deal with the drainage problems, and it's all tied in together because also when you're dealing with stormwater and drainage, that also affects your transportation because you can't have a flooded street or, if the water's going into ditches and creeks, you have to make sure it doesn't impede your transportation or anything like that, or your buildings. So I do enjoy what I do. Pretty much a typical day for me is not so typical. It changes as the seasons and days change. Like yesterday was pretty much kind of like inspections, making sure that our ditches was kind of clear so we didn't have any like roadway flooding and things like that. I inspect construction projects that we have that come through the city at the time. And also, I also interface with constituents and property owners. They might be having, drainage or stormwater issues. I meet with them to try to solve their problems, to see like, okay, what is the issue? How can we solve it as far as like if it's on the city side, if it's something that the private owner can do. And I enjoy it because every day is something new and different. And I really just feel like this is my calling because like I say, I like to solve problems. So I really like to help the people in like the city every day when they call. I try my best to just help them as much as possible. So yeah, that's just like a picture of me on the inspection side. And then the picture of the map is like a picture of our drainage maps for the city. So a lot of times I do research before I go out to a constituent's house, just to see like, okay, what drainage structures, which could be like an inlet or a ditch or open ditch that's near their property, to see like, okay, where's the water supposed to go? A lot of times we have to figure that out. So those pictures just kind of show that. And then this is the last slide. So I'm just here for any questions.
All right. Yeah, I have a few before we get to some of theirs. Can you talk a little bit, and this really isn't an engineering type question, but this is just for students in general that may have, even if they're not interested in engineering, can you talk a little bit about the experience going from a PWI to an HPCU?
Okay, so it was interesting. I was kind of a little bit about my background. I was kind of used to it. So at Murrah, when I went to Murrah at the time, we were probably about 35, 65. So 35 white, 65 black at the time. So I had a quite a bit of a mixture. And then when I graduated, I didn't talk about it, but I did go to a military school for 2 years. Then I transferred to Mississippi State. So, but of course, the military school was basically like a PWI. It was, and then Mississippi State was a PWI. I enjoyed it. I think it was more so at a PWI, you kind of gravitate, what you do, especially being in engineering and being a minority, you gravitate towards other minority engineering students. You kind of Yeah, you really do. You gravitate towards people who look like you and have shared experiences. You do have to open up more because I am quite a bit of an introvert. So it was I always say it was challenging, but it was fun in a sense, and it was a new experience. Then after I graduated, I had been working for a while and I decided to go back and get my master's. I knew that I did want to go to Jackson State. I knew I wanted to go to HBCU. So going there, I feel like I was more mature in a sense. Yeah, because I was older. And I enjoyed that experience because I was working and also going to school. But I was able to also interact with the undergraduates. So it was fun. And in a sense, it felt like almost like coming home again, even though I'm from Jackson, I was back home, but like going back to Jackson State was like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. I really enjoyed the faculty. They were just really like, took me in and just really helped me on my journey to get my master's. And then it was good to also just interact with the students to be like, okay, basically putting like a face with an engineer, because a lot of times, people, especially with minorities, oh, we want you to get into STEM, we want you to get into STEM, but you really don't see people who look like you in STEM, or people who are just like, who have found their way, are successful in it. So I enjoy both experiences, but I am a little more towards the HBCU experience.
Yeah, and I think they both have a lot of different things to offer. But we are going to have some students that are watching this now, and maybe some watch later, that maybe aren't African American. I think it's important to understand that Jackson State, especially their engineering department, is very, very diverse.
Oh, there, yes. From faculty to students, you have. So when I was at Jackson State, I had a professor from Poland.
Wow.
I had a professor from China. I had students that were non-traditional, that, were an undergraduate. When I say non-traditional, they weren't that between the ages of like 18 and 22. So they might have like decided to change careers, and they was like in their 30s and they were becoming civil engineers. And then you had the traditional students who were the 18 to 20, 22, 21 years old. You had white, you had African American, you had Asian American, you had also, you had students. I met quite a few students who were from Ethiopia. So Jackson State has a very diverse, like, international student population. So yes, I feel like honestly, and it's not I feel, I know that Jackson State is more diverse as a HBCU than a PWI.
Yeah, and that's what I just want everybody to understand, because I think a lot of our students, that especially the ones that we have here, they want to be in a more diverse atmosphere. But Jackson State is an HBCU, but it does offer that diverse atmosphere.
Yes.
Now, one thing that and you did hit on this a little bit, when people think engineering, they automatically think mechanical, they automatically think engine because it's in the word. But it's like you said, engineering is not just dealing with machines. Like you said, how much of engineering is actually solving of problems instead of actually working on the machine?
I would say majority of it is. Because sometimes the problem can be just as simple as just organizing data that might come in. That's still engineering. And so there, like you say, I think because especially in where we are, you have Nissan and you have like Continental. A lot of people think like, okay, all the engineers work at Nissan. All the engineers, are going to work at Continental. And they look at it like, oh, that's tire manufacturing, that's Nissan, they're building cars. But there's so many other subsets of engineering. Like if you think about, even though this is machines, but it's still different types of machines. Like if you think about with mechanical, a lot of them deal with HVAC systems. So like how your AC works, like in commercial buildings, are designing it for buildings, that's mechanical. And then you have industrial, which is more so like the manufacturing. You have civil, you have like biomedical, which that's a lot of times that's with research, medical research and things like that. So there's just so many different subsets. You have chemical. So yeah, engineering, I would say, is probably like 90% solving problems and then you might end up having to work with machines, but I would say 90% of it is problem solving.
Wow. And we have started on, at least for my class, I can't speak for the other teachers watching, but we have started on the engineering design process, which I know is just very, very basic. But how much of that is used because one thing that I've tried to tell my students is that the first time you do something, you're probably not going to get it right. It's okay to have several tries at something.
Yes, so that's something that I like learned. It like even before, but definitely throughout undergraduate. Trial and error. A lot of times our teachers, when we would have tests, they would just tell us, show your work, because a lot of times you might not get the right answer. You might not get that final answer that's correct, but you showed your work. So they saw like, okay, your thought process. They saw like, okay, did you show A, B, C, D, or however many steps it might be? And you got so much credit for your process and how you got there, even though you didn't get the final answer. And a lot of times it's reiterated that the final answer is different ways to get to the final answer too. And your final answer might not be my final answer, but that doesn't make it wrong.
Yeah.
So I loved about the trial and error, because it was just like, keep going until you get what you need to get to solve the problem.
Yeah, and that's what I've tried to tell, at least tell these, is that I'm not an engineering expert, but I do know enough to know that sometimes there's more than one way to get to a solution.
Yes, there's plenty of ways to get to a solution. And that is something that I really enjoyed about it, because, growing up, sometimes you have like this rigid kind of upbringing, or like even K through, like early childhood. Kind of like, okay, you got to do this, A, B, C, D. And sometimes you might, an engineer, you might be like, you might have to start at F, and then you might go to Z, and then come back to A, and then you get your answer.
Oh, absolutely.
So many different ways. Yeah.
All right, and before I get to their questions, I just have one more. If somebody doesn't want to go into STEM full time, how important are these STEM skills that they learn now in any type of career?
I would say it's very important, because, a lot of people just be like, oh, I don't like math, I don't like science, but we use it every day. Like the basic math and science skills, they are used in any career, even if you're not in STEM. So it's a good foundation. That's pretty much how I look at it. Like, you can build on it and go into STEM, but you still need that foundation to just go into anything that you want to pursue. Like, even if it's, journalism, or, you still need STEM.
Okay, well, this is from Jay Ashton Williams, and he is a ninth grader, and he's asking what department does your job fall under in the city of Jackson?
Okay, it falls under the Department of Public Works. So yes, I'm actually in the engineering division. So Department of Public Works, we have different divisions underneath it. You have like bridges and drainage. Well, you have infrastructure. Under infrastructure, you have bridges and drainage, paved streets, and traffic. And then you also have water sewer. That's a division. And then you have like the water business administration. That's a whole division also. And then you have in the engineering division, which is it's a smaller division within under public works. But yes, so I'm in public works.
All right, I like this one. This is a Maya Dixon, and she's also a ninth grader. And she asked, do you get frustrated when you can't figure something out? And if you do, how do you work around it?
Absolutely. Yes, let's be honest. I do get frustrated. For me, I take a step back. I have to write down every day a to-do list. I keep them. I'm old school, so I do paper. Sometimes if I don't have paper, I put it in my phone. And if I can't figure something out, and that's like on my list of things to do today, I'll go to the next thing and kind of get my mind off of it and work on something else. And for me, a lot of times when I work on other problems, it's like a light bulb will go off. I'm like, oh, that'll help me solve what I was frustrated about earlier, the previous problem. And I might make a note, go ahead and finish what I was doing, then go back to it. So I do that quite a bit, because sometimes there are some things, especially that's on like a daily basis, but I do have projects and problems that can't be solved in one day. So you always have to kind of revisit, and you go back to the whole trial and error. You might have tried something, but like, okay, that didn't work. And you see yourself getting frustrated. Okay, well, let me go work on another project, see if I can, get leeway with that or finish that, and then come back to that project. So that's pretty much what I do. I take breaks and I come back to it. Other things that help me sometimes, when taking breaks, I might listen to a little music, because that sometimes, like depending on how your brain works, it might trigger something and you have a light bulb moment, like, oh, that'll help me solve this. And it helps instead of just focusing on it and basically making yourself more frustrated. Just kind of taking a step back, taking a breath, taking a break, getting your mind off of it, and then coming back to it.
Okay. And this is from Camaria Smith. She's also a ninth grader. And she asked about, you talked about at Mississippi State, you're one of the only females. Are you one of the only females at your job?
Right now, there are in engineering, yes. There are a few women in other divisions, but yeah, in engineering, I'm the only one at the
Wow.
moment.
That's
But
incredible.
that could change. Well, yes, I am the only one.
And this is Brian Mcmurtry. He's a sophomore, and he's asking, what are some things you struggled with when you first started your job?
That's a good question. I would have to say confident and knowing that, just trying to apply what you learn, like I said, in theory versus hands-on now.
Yeah.
I would encourage, in school, go do an intern, and no matter what your field is, especially in STEM, but no matter what career, what your, what's the word I'm looking for? I have a little brain for it, but major is, do an intern, because that gives you hands-on to see like, okay, and it also helps you see if you really want to do this. Okay, repeat the question because I kind of got a little side.
What is some of the things you struggled with when you first started your job?
Oh, okay, yes. So like I said, it was confidence and just being sure of myself. Because when you first come out, you're like, okay, I got this degree, but I kind of don't have any experience really. So just trying to find out what works best for you.
Absolutely.
And what was my coworkers. It was quite a few of us who had kind of graduated around the same time at my first job. It was a group of us, probably like 5 or 6 of us. So we were all like new together. So we was like, okay, we in this together. We're gonna all learn together, and we pretty much supported each other. So having that support system and just learning along the way. Like I said, I'm curious, so I just ask questions if I didn't know. We hear it all the time, but it's true. There's no such thing as a stupid question, because I guarantee you someone else is wondering it also. So just questions and being like a little shadow around people and just be like, okay, how do you do this? Or how does this work? And just learning. And they just helped me build confidence. And after a while, I was like, okay, it was like secondhand, like, okay, I know how to do this. I know like this. So then you just building up your own confidence.
All right, this is from Alonzo Johnson. He's also a ninth grader, and he's asking, what's it like dealing with the structural problems of the Jackson water pipes?
It's challenging, but I look at it as a good challenge, because some things can be solved, and a lot of things are tied in together. So sometimes, and you'll be surprised, some things people be like, oh, I had a water leak that was in the street for however long. Water came and fixed it, and it caused a drainage problem on their property. So that's why I'm saying, like, everything is all I've learned working public sector, that everything is tied in together. So it's not like, okay, it's just a water problem. That water problem also might cause a sewer problem, or might cause a drainage problem, stormwater problem. So just realizing, like, getting to the root of the problem and realizing you have to work with the different divisions and departments to solve the problems. So I would have to say that it's been a good challenge, because you realize, like, okay, this can be solved this way. And then a lot of times some of the same problems arise, you go, okay, we know how to solve this, so we can get to a solution quicker.
I just have one more from them, then I got one more to close with, but this is from Trevion Blatman. He's a ninth grader, and he asks, how do you stay motivated through hard times and struggles?
I would have to say faith. I do lean on the Lord quite a bit. I have a good support system. I have, which I feel like the Lord has provided me with. Just having, I'm a venter, so I do like to talk and kind of just express myself, express my problems, and then a lot of times when I talk through things, I feel much better, and then I kind of talking through it, I get to a solution. So that would be pretty much how I get through those challenging times. I lean on my faith and my support system.
That's awesome. And we thank you so much for joining us today. But I just have one last question, and I ask every speaker the same thing. Just like everybody else in this room, you grew up Black and in Mississippi. So despite the obvious obstacles you're going to have in that setting, what have you done to become as successful as you have?
I would have to say just, again, faith. A lot of times I would just kind of pause and be like, okay, Lord, what do you want me to do? Like, I know it might sound cliche, but like, I want to do your will, not mine. And I feel like that has never failed me. It just hasn't. It has always guided me. And I feel like that's why I'm here where I am today. And he puts people in my path and just, I've come to the conclusion that when my success is not hard, if that makes sense. Like, I don't have to, yeah, you might have challenging times, you might have to work for it, but it's not like, oh, like everything's just against me. It pretty much goes with it, like it's easy, if that makes sense. It goes with a flow. So you don't feel like you're just kind of like stuck or not going anywhere, because I do ask for his guidance. And I feel like he guides me when it comes to like, oh, do I need to take a new position, or do I need to go back to school, things like that, like those major decisions. So I feel like that's why I am successful, and that's why I'm here today. Yeah.
That's awesome. And we thank you so much for joining us. I know you got a busy schedule. We thank you for taking some time out for us, but you have quite a story. It is amazing, and it's such an inspiration for these young people. And if they have any more questions, if anybody sees this later from any of the other schools and has any questions, I'll be more than happy to pass them along. Because you were looking at one of the top up and coming professionals in the city of Jackson. I'm glad to know you, and I appreciate everything you did for us today.
Yeah, I'm glad that you asked me to do this and have this opportunity, and I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the questions. And if there's any more, if anyone wants to reach out to me, they can, via email, and you can just give them my contact, and we can go from there. And I wish y'all the best.
All
Have
right.
a great.
Well, thank you so much. I'll see you soon.
All right, bye.
See ya.
See ya.